Hello everyone, welcome back here to Weather on the Go, all your weather coverage. I am meteorologist Hunter here at Weather on the Go, and we are going to be talking severe weather for Monday and Tuesday here on this live stream. So welcome to everybody here joining the live severe weather outbreak coverage. If you are here, make sure to press or smash that like button. Also subscribe to this channel, as we will have an afternoon update video for you this afternoon on the latest weather forecast conditions all across the US, southern Canada here, and the tropics. So thank you guys so much for watching here. We are looking here right now currently at your IR, your infrared satellite imagery here. Very interesting looking feature here that we are seeing real quick before we get to the outlook. You can see all this moisture starting to stream up to the north and east across portions of the southern plains. So you have a deepening low pressure system out here across the lee side of the Rockies. You can see that little spin in the atmosphere here, counterclockwise spin out here, and this is definitely beginning to usher in some intense weather across the plains today. We're definitely going to have the threat of some severe weather. So let's get into the latest outlook from our friends over at the Storm Prediction Center. They did actually update this at 8 o'clock this morning. And after we look at the outlook and the probabilities for Monday, we will answer any questions you have about Monday, and then we'll go over to the Tuesday outlook. So again, make sure if you are here in the chat, be patient. We will get to your questions here just momentarily. But here's the latest update from the Storm Prediction Center as of 8 o'clock Central Time this morning. They did actually continue with that enhanced risk of severe weather here. This is a level 3 out of 5 on the scale here across portions of Nebraska, getting into Kansas and far southern South Dakota here. This is an area of concern for the most greatest significant severe weather as we go through today. So again, this is centered across Nebraska and Kansas, but also up here in the far southern portions of South Dakota. We also have a very large area of yellow here. This is a slight risk. This is a level 2 out of 5 on the scale. So this is just a step down from the enhanced, but still a formidable severe weather threat here from South Dakota here all the way across western Iowa, western portions of Missouri. That will stretch around through portions there again of Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma in that slight risk, and all the way down into northwest Texas here. So definitely keeping an eye on that. And then we have a green shaded color here, darker green. That's a level 1 out of 5 on the scale. So if you do live in this darker green area here, and that does include portions of the Ohio River Valley, we do have a threat for severe weather, and actually a surprise threat of severe weather over here into the Richmond, Virginia Beach area, Washington, D.C. You guys are all on the slight risk, a level 2 out of 5 today as well. So you have to keep an eye on severe weather further to the east. Again, we are doing live severe weather coverage, folks. If you are just joining, smash that like button. The more likes we get quickly, the more people who are joining and are aware of the severe weather potential today and on Tuesday. So let's look at the probabilities for severe weather potential. The biggest probability here for today is large hail. We've had a lot of large hail events so far this severe weather season to start, and we're actually going to be trending to see a lot more of these large hail events, probably because we have a lot of drought ongoing in New Mexico and Colorado here and out across the Four Corners region. And what this does is actually creates an environment where we have very dry air aloft. So think of the atmosphere as of like different profiles, right? You go up in the atmosphere, it cools off naturally, but when you have a dry air aloft, right? Dry air heats up a lot faster than moist air does, right? So when you have dry air, you have an elevated mix layer. That's what drier air is called here, from what is called a cap on the atmosphere. So if you have a cap on the atmosphere, you have warm surface temperatures, but then you have, like I mentioned, the atmosphere naturally cools as you go aloft. While that's still true, there's still a shallow warm layer aloft, because aloft you have that dry layer, that EML, the elevated mix layer, and that actually prevents severe thunderstorms from forming. And sometimes it can be strong enough from preventing a lot of thunderstorms, even just garden variety type of thunderstorms, or even showers from developing. And that is the problem that we do have today. We'll mention that here again in just a moment, but let's look at the probabilities here. We do have very large hail impacting here portions of southern South Dakota, Nebraska, getting into portions of central Kansas and northern Kansas today. Also a secondary area, almost a bimodal threat for very large hail today. Another area down here near the Red River Valley. This is areas near portions of southwestern Oklahoma there near the Red River, and then down into northwestern Texas. So we'll keep an eye on that. The areas in the crosshairs, some of the bigger metropolitan areas here in the northern area here, Lincoln, Omaha, Sioux City, down there to Dodge City, Kansas, Wichita, and Topeka, and then moving up there closer toward Pierre and Rapid City. We'll keep an eye on you folks up there for very large hail. And then the southern areas here, like I said, a bimodal threat for very large hail. This will be for the Wichita Falls area, Vernon, Altus, and down toward Abilene, San Angelo, and Big Spring, Texas. So we'll keep an eye on that. That is all west of the Dallas-Fort Worth area as we go through the day today. And we don't want to sleep on the large hail threat over here either. Into eastern Virginia, northeastern North Carolina there in Maryland, we do have a threat of a 15% probability of some quarter-size hail or slightly larger in those areas further to the east in that slight risk later on today. The second biggest risk today is actually a tornado threat. Now, they did just increase this. In the latest update, this was just a 5%, but then at 8 o'clock this morning, they increased the Storm Prediction Center, that is, when I say they, the Storm Prediction Center increased the probabilities to a 10% hatched risk of tornadoes across portions of Nebraska and Kansas. This is a potential for a strong, long track tornado, as we'll have discrete supercells developing here. And we'll go over the timing in just a moment, but these actually looks to impact the Broken Bow area up here, into the Kearney area in Nebraska, down into Hays, Kansas, Great Bend, and Dodge City, over here towards Hutchinson. So we'll keep an eye on that. That is as we go in towards later today. But a large, broad area of a 5% shading in tornado probabilities across the Great Plains today, so we'll have to keep an eye on that threat. And then, of course, the wind threat, we don't want to sleep on that either. Damaging winds, rightfully so, and respectively can produce damage as well. That's why they're called damaging winds. And we could still have threat of 60-plus mile-an-hour winds in these especially yellow shaded colors in 3 areas today, from southern South Dakota into Nebraska and Kansas, but also down near the Red River Valley, southwestern portions of Oklahoma into northwest Texas, but also eastward into Virginia, North Carolina, and Maryland. So a couple of areas we're keeping an eye on damaging wind potential as we do go through the day today. All right, so let's look here at kind of the setup and the atmosphere as we go through the rest of the afternoon here today. We are looking at the threat for severe weather, obviously, so let's look here at our weather models, and we'll look at the HRRR and show you kind of the environment that we are looking at as we go through today. And again, we're doing live severe weather coverage, folks. I see we only have 75 likes in here, 162 people. There should be 162 likes in here. So again, if you are here, make sure to smash that like button. Again, I appreciate it. It really does help out more than you know. We'll get to your questions in just a moment. So let's look first here at our dew point temperatures. Okay, so this is very important for severe weather potential. As of 9 o'clock this morning, it's almost 10 o'clock, but as of 9 o'clock this morning, our dew points are rising. They're on the rise here across the central and the southern plains. And what this is actually doing is making for more of an unstable environment all across this region here. And all of this warm, moist air is advecting northward, okay, out of the Gulf of Mexico. And this is going to continue to travel north as we go through the rest of the day here on your Monday. And let's kind of walk you through the dew points here. So like as we go through later on this morning into the noon time frame here, and as it loads, as it takes forever because it's technology, so we'll wait for that. We'll be patient. Maybe loading. There we go. Okay, so noon time frame, we'll have some into Kansas, into western portions of Missouri, into southeastern Nebraska. We do have some dew points on the rise there, and you can see the dew points by noon time frame. Into like Wichita, we'll see mid 60 dew points, 64 degrees. Kansas City, the warm front approaching you by noon at 65 degree dew point, and some upper 50, low 60 degree dew points advecting north into southeastern Nebraska by the noon time frame. We'll step into the afternoon, 4 o'clock. You can see that we have some mixing out of the dew points, okay? So we're going to mix out the dew points. What that means is you're going to have some strong, gusty, breezy, southwesterly winds, and sometimes that mixes out some of the higher dew points. So we may see those mid 60 dew points become more upper 50, low 60 dew points as they mix out a little bit as we go into the afternoon. That does happen this time of year, especially when you do have a dry line approaching and some gusty southwesterly winds off of that elevated elevated mixed layer, that drier air in New Mexico with that drought. So we'll keep an eye on that. And looking over at the mid-level winds here today as we go into the afternoon, here's what is interesting. So we have a trough moving in across the Four Corners region here today. You can kind of see that general dip in the jet stream here all across this region, kind of like this. That's our trough here. And the trough at first today is more of a neutral tilt. So we only have a neutrally tilted trough by the afternoon. And we have a maturing low pressure system across portions of the middle of the country. And here's the instability for today. So as we go into the afternoon hours, here's the instability. Yeah, look at that. Yellows and oranges starting to develop here into Nebraska, Kansas, up around 2,000. 3,000 joules per kilogram instability, the strongest of which will be down into Oklahoma here and Texas. You're closer to the Gulf of Mexico. You're going to have much more, available moisture readily there into that region. So Oklahoma City, Lawton, Fort Sill, Elk City, down there towards the Abilene and Wichita Falls region. Of course, yes, you'll be seeing some higher instability around 3,000 joules per kilogram because you're closer to the Gulf of Mexico. The instability is readily available to you this time of year down across that region. Now let's look at something else here today. It's called supercell composite. So what this basically does is it puts all of the ingredients together in what's called a composite parameter. So you have essentially moisture or dew points we were just showing you. We have the instability, so your CAPE, your convective available potential energy. It takes into account the mid-level jet, the low-level jet here, and everything like that, helicity values. Basically, in layman's terms, it basically shows you the potential for supercell thunderstorms as we go through the day. So here we go, 4 o'clock this afternoon. We start to see elevated values of supercell composite down here across southern Kansas, but also into west central Oklahoma, into this vicinity. But we still see values to the north starting to grow as well, up here into Kansas, northern Kansas that is, and southeastern Nebraska. We'll keep an eye on that. I think it's after the dinner time frame we need to really be concerned about here, because look at these values really starting to grow 7, 8, 9 o'clock here this evening, and look at these values in northwest Texas. We start to see these really climb down here into the Altus, Oklahoma region, but also Vernon, Texas, Wichita Falls. Those values really increase by about 8 o'clock here this evening. Look at the supercell composite here. This is out of 10, folks. This is 30 out of 10. So that means that if a storm develops in this environment, it would likely acquire supercell characteristics as we go through the day. You can see up into Oklahoma City here, we have the 11s out of 10s. We'll keep an eye on that. And then here's another composite that we look at. It's a it's a significant tornado parameter as well. This is, again, putting all of the wind shear, the moisture, the instability, the whole 9 yards together to kind of show you what we can see for tornado potential here. And look at that. Actually, it grows throughout the evening. And that's worrisome, folks, because this is after dark. This is late evening hours. Look at that maxing out up here into Kansas around 3s out of 10s. And naturally, this parameter for tornado potential, for a significant tornado, a parameter greater than 1 is actually pretty significant. When you're seeing 3s and 4s here in Kansas, that's why we have that 10% hatched risk for tornadoes that was presented to us by the Storm Prediction Center. We have 5s up here, folks, out of 10s up across southern Nebraska. So I think Nebraska and Kansas, if we see a storm later on today, will go big. Now, with that said, like we were talking about earlier, we have the dry line setup here. We have the perfect, classic, Great Plains severe weather setup here with the synoptics, the big picture, okay? But when you're missing one ingredient here, and again, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself with showing this real quick. Don't get too excited now with these supercells showing up on this model, but here's the thing that is a little bit of a caveat. So again, we have drought ongoing in Colorado, we have drought ongoing in New Mexico, and here's the thing that's going to really kind of make or break our severe weather situation later today and this evening. We're going to have a cap on the atmosphere undoubtedly through the rest of the morning into the afternoon. That cap is holding strong. Think of it like a pot of boiling water. When you put the lid on the boiling water, the steam doesn't come out, right? That's exactly what the atmosphere is acting like here so far this morning, and that will continue as we go through the afternoon. As we heat the ground, it's going to create that inversion. So we have a capping inversion. So that's going to remain in place. That lid is going to remain sealed on that pot of boiling water through the day. As we go deeper into the late afternoon, and I think around dinner time, okay, so we'll see around 5, 6, 7 o'clock. That is the time that where you have to naturally watch out. The atmosphere begins to cool because naturally the sun starts to go down in the sky. We start to see that set. The atmosphere begins to stabilize aloft, and that cools the air aloft. So as you cool the air aloft and you cool that cap, that starts to help it weaken and possibly break or breach the cap, as other meteorologists would say, breaching the cap. So we'll continue to watch that as we go through late afternoon. And it definitely today, if you were thinking that this could be a big severe weather day, it very well could be, but it also could be a huge bust too. There could be literally not a single storm that develops out of here until after midnight, for example. So we may not have anything to talk about through the evening hours today at all, or today just for Monday in general. So that is the thing with the cap here. So that's what we're seeing. So as we go through the day, the lid is on the pot of boiling water. As we go through the evening, the lid starts to cool off. So obviously you start to cool off the atmosphere. You naturally get clouds. Those clouds, as the cap weakens and breaks, start to turn into cumulonimbus clouds, those big, tall thunderstorm updrafts. And then we could start to see supercells. And that means all the steam can start coming out of the pot of boiling water as you lift that lid, you lift that cap. So we'll have to watch that through the day. All right, so enough of the scientific talk here real quick. Let's get into the real details with the potential timing of the severe weather, and we'll get to your questions here in just a moment, folks. All right, so hang tight there. Again, if you are here, make sure to continue to press that like button. We're providing you educational severe weather analysis here today, also giving you guys the timing, the breakdown, the setup, everything for severe weather that you need to know in today's live stream forecast. So I appreciate y'all being here. So let's go through the day. Here's the cap, folks. The cap is on the atmosphere, noon time frame. Not a single thing in sight. Now, this model does show, this is the 12Z This updates, refreshes every hour. It does show a shower, maybe a rumble of thunder down here into the Oklahoma City metro. I don't buy that. I honestly don't think we're going to see that cap breach that early at noon. That's definitely not going to happen. I think we could have some higher level clouds, maybe mid-level clouds moving through. We'll keep an eye on that. Going through 3 o'clock here. Here's the deal. We have a potential breach of the cap down here into southwestern Oklahoma and northwestern Texas. This is the area of first concern as we go into mid-afternoon, 2 to 4 o'clock time frame. We'll be watching this corridor here from Oklahoma City down through Lawton, Fort Sill, into the Vernon, Texas region and Wichita Falls, and then maybe just back east of Lubbock. That's the area we're keeping an eye on for initiation of those severe thunderstorms as we go into the mid-afternoon hours. Again, 2 p.m. Central to 4 p.m. Central Time. If we can see that cap breach or break down across this region, we lift that lid, a pot of boiling water off of the pot of boiling water, the steam comes out right down here. We start to see thunderstorms ignite. And as we go through the rest of the day here, 6 o'clock, look at that cap breaches. We see thunderstorms quickly develop and literally out of thin air, from a shower to maybe 15 minutes later becoming severe warned with 60-mile-an-hour winds and quarter-size hail. That's what a cap on the atmosphere does. And a lot of times, severe weather setups with the cap in place are more significant than without. So we're going to continue to watch that. Supercell thunderstorms are very possible here from Fort Sill all the way down through Wichita Falls, the Abilene region, by about 6 o'clock here this evening. So definitely keeping an eye on this. This could produce very large hail. We already know in Texas we've had a lot of large hail events this season. We are likely to see that potentially again today if the cap breaks. Further north, Oklahoma City, Tulsa, the cap is trying to break, doesn't quite break enough to where we see any severe weather, but some lower topped showers, maybe a thunderstorm may develop. Those could go severe. But Kansas, Nebraska, we're still waiting here at 6 o'clock this evening. Nothing happening. And the reason why, because the cap hasn't broken across this region quite yet. So as we go through the evening, here we go. The cap starts to break potentially, according to this model, at 8 o'clock Central Time across western Kansas. So that means we could have a couple supercells developing here and maybe one or two up into Nebraska as well near the track of the surface low. We'll have to keep an eye on that for tornado potential. Obviously near the surface low, we may have enhanced wind shear, but very large hail producers if these start to develop by about 8 o'clock this evening into western Kansas, something to definitely keep an eye on here. The ones up near the track of the surface low here near the border of Nebraska and southern South Dakota, we need to watch enhanced wind shear, enhanced mid-level flow up here. We have to keep an eye on this threat for potentially some rotating low top supercells. We'll keep an eye on that through the early evening hours. And then as we go through late evening, we're going to start to see these ignite. Look at that, folks. The cap just breaches, it breaks, and we just, boom, see supercells develop late this evening. And yes, note the timing here, 10, 11 o'clock this evening. This is dangerous, folks. This is a dangerous setup. This is nocturnal hail and tornado potential for Nebraska, for Kansas, Oklahoma, and Texas, all across this region here. And if we get one or two of these supercells to go here, one maybe up in Nebraska, maybe a couple down here into Kansas near Wichita and the Dodge City, Hutchinson region, up toward Lincoln, Nebraska, North Platte, those areas, they could go very strong. They could produce tornadoes easily with the environment I was just showing you with those significant tornado parameters over 3s. Remember, a value greater than 1 on the significant tornado parameter could easily produce a significant EF2 or stronger variety tornado, but values in Nebraska near the track of the surface low at a 5 out of 10, folks, that is literally almost a 50% chance that you'll see a tornado in that area. Now, according to the Storm Prediction Center, there is a 10% probability of a strong EF2 or stronger tornado. We'll keep an eye on that. We'll watch out for that as we go into late this evening. After midnight now, we're going into the 1 o'clock hour. We're going to start to see those supercells, I wouldn't say really weaken, but we're going to see them kind of grow upscale into more clusters of storms, multi-cell clusters. These will turn into more damaging wind and probably just hail producers. We have a lot of dry air aloft after all, again, as we keep talking about the cap and the elevated mix layer, so we'll keep an eye on that. And then this will kind of cluster up into eastern Nebraska, northern Kansas here, maybe an arcing band of some stronger storms moving into west central Iowa. Again, a lot of these will be damaging wind hail producers, but we still have to keep an eye on the tornado potential embedded within this. Supercell thunderstorm structures may be possibly embedded within this activity here, even at 3 o'clock in the morning on your Tuesday before sunrise. That'll shift east. That'll weaken as this moves north, as it kind of outpaces the instability further north of the warm front. A lot of this thunderstorm activity will be elevated. So when you have elevated thunderstorms, they're not surface based. You're going to see a lot more large hail events than tornado and damaging wind potential. 6 o'clock tomorrow morning on Tuesday. Here we go. We got some storms developing on Tuesday. Those storms will crank up across portions of Des Moines by about midday, and they'll push into Illinois and portions there of eastern Iowa, and that would be tomorrow's threat. And I actually do believe tomorrow will be a more robust, widespread severe weather outbreak than it is today, but we don't want to discount today. Today could be a big day here across Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, and even to some degree southern South Dakota as well. We really need to keep an eye on this as we do go through the day and tonight as well. So again, if you guys have any questions regarding severe weather potential for today on Monday, make sure to ask questions about that. We'll worry about Tuesday here in just a few minutes. We'll break down Tuesday's setup and threat for you and the timing of the storms, and we'll answer questions about Tuesday's threat tomorrow as well. So again, if you're here, make sure to ask any questions. We are here for you to answer as many as we can. So Drew Ferguson at the start of the live stream, did you see the 10% risk of tornadoes? Absolutely. The second that came out at 8 o'clock this morning, I was right on top of it. So thank you for reminding me. I really do appreciate it. But yes, I did see that. Good morning. Thank you for Terminal Velocity for joining. What are we thinking for north central Kansas this evening and the overnight threat area? So let's go back here to north central Kansas. Right now, if the cap breaks, and again, that's a big if, okay? That's a big if. If the cap breaks and breaches later on here today, it would be about 8 o'clock initiation time as it looks right now this evening. And for north central Kansas, it would be about late evening. So between about 9 and midnight. That's when you're going to have to keep an eye out for severe weather. But the severe weather potential may linger there into north central Kansas through about 3 o'clock in the morning. So I think 9 p.m. to midnight is the initiation point, but 9 p.m. to 3 a.m. is the time you really need to keep an eye out for severe weather. So that 6-hour period, it's going to be an overnight threat. So if you are sleeping, any folks here in north central Kansas are sleeping tonight, make sure to have multiple ways to receive watches and warnings, whether that is a NOAA weather radio, your smartphone device, your laptop, your tablet, anything that can wake you up and annoy you, because we need those devices to annoy you, because if you aren't waking up for a tornado warning, that is not good overnight. So we need you have multiple ways to receive watches and warnings as we do go through the nighttime. All right, so good question there. West of St. Louis Metro, looks like we're under, again, for the 8th time this spring. Yes, St. Louis will be more for Tuesday, be Tuesday morning into the afternoon. But yes, your potential there will be mainly on Tuesday for St. Louis area. Thank you, Stephen, for joining, and Brody, thanks for joining as well. Hello to you this morning. I live over the river across from Omaha. I don't think it'll get bad, but I have a backup just in case. Okay, well, up into Omaha here, don't discount it, because I do think Omaha could have the potential for overnight tornadoes as well. I think your threat comes in around 11 p.m. or midnight. So again, have multiple ways to receive watches and warnings if you do live in the Omaha or Lincoln or even Sioux City up here. So definitely, again, this is an overnight threat around the, give or take an hour or two around the midnight time frame, 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. Around the Sioux City area, Omaha, and Lincoln, Nebraska. Hey Scott, thanks for joining. Good morning to you. Scott says Oklahoma's not looking good. That's where my grandpa. Okay, so Oklahoma right now, again, same deal. It looks like if the cap breaks, then severe weather will be possible. Very possible we may not see a drop of rain today in Oklahoma or tonight. That is very possible. This model actually has most of the significant weather occurring north into Kansas and Nebraska, but very well, Oklahoma area could start to see more severe weather potential as we go later on in the evening. Same deal here, initiation time about 8 o'clock if the cap starts to break or breach, and then we start to see that develop as we go through the midnight and 3 a.m. time frame. That's your time to watch. Again, 9 p.m. to 3 a.m. for most of us here in the Great Plains is the time frame to generally watch. Jordan, thanks for joining. Hoping Aurora, Illinois doesn't get too bad. That will be for Tuesday, so we'll talk about that here in just a moment for you. Blondie, thanks for joining. I appreciate it. Could those two fronts converge? I'm not sure what you mean. Are you talking about the triple point, low pressure, warm front, and cold front? Those will catch up tomorrow. The dry line is going to be across the Western Plains for today. South Dakota here, standing by. Thanks, Matt, for joining. Yes, South Dakota will go up here toward the Pierre, Rapid City, and Sioux Falls region. And you can see the timing of the storms through today. We're not seeing any weather today during the daylight hours. For South Dakota, it looks like we may start to see storms literally right around sunset. So 7, 8 o'clock here this evening. Supercell thunderstorms maybe around the Rapid City area back here just south of Pierre. We'll have to keep an eye on that. Those could be very large hail producers. They'll kind of have an arcing band of supercells up around the northern edge of that low pressure system. And this actually leads me to believe that since the warm front is further south, these supercells up here will be elevated supercells. So large hail will be the primary risk, but I cannot rule out a tornado up here at all near the Rapid City, Pierre, or Sioux Falls region, even down towards Sioux City. That is still possible, but I think most of these storms will be elevated and not surface-based because they're not in the actual, technical warm sector. So we're probably going to be seeing more large hail than damaging winds and tornado threat, but keep your eyes peeled for potentially all three modes of severe weather even this evening up there into South Dakota. So thanks for your question there. The highest tornado risk is west of Lincoln, Nebraska, right? Yeah. Let's look here. Let's go back to the outlook here from the Storm Prediction Center. So Lincoln, Nebraska, yes, the highest chance of tornado potential is west toward the Kearney region, but you still in Lincoln, Nebraska have a 5% probability of a tornado within 25 miles of Lincoln, Nebraska. So there is still a potential for a tornado there in today as well. And again, the Storm Prediction Center will be updating this again at 3 o'clock this afternoon. So maybe they expand that 10% hatch risk. Maybe they do. So we'll continue to monitor that. Again, that's why we'll have a video forecast coming out this afternoon for you folks, updating you on the severe weather. Thank you to David Robinson for the $4.99. Watching you again today in Mr. Robinson's room. Thank you for keeping us informed. Absolutely. Thanks for joining. I really appreciate it. Always nice to have David Robinson here. Really appreciate your generosity. Thank you. Again, folks, just joining. Make sure to press that like button and subscribe here to Weather on the Go. We will have, again, another afternoon video update, probably around 1, 2 o'clock this afternoon. So make sure that if you are here, that you subscribe so you get that. Also turn on all notifications as well for videos, live streams, etc. So you guys are notified when I do go live, and also for my videos when they do get released later on today and in the future as well, future weeks, months to come. Thanks for the amazing content. Thank you so much for joining. Let's see here. Yeah, it does, Kimber, doesn't it? Is Benson, Minnesota going to be okay? Yeah, Minnesota, I'm not really worried about Minnesota. We're mainly just you're going to be on so-called the cooler side of the storm. You're going to be north of the warm front. I'm not really keeping too close of an eye on Minnesota, except for maybe if you live in southern or southeastern Minnesota, so like around the Rochester region, as we mainly go into Tuesday. That's going to be your threat there. I think Minnesota overnight into Tuesday morning, just going to see some general garden variety thunderstorms. I can't rule out some smaller hail and some 40 mile per hour wind gusts or something like that. But overall, if we're talking about like widespread severe weather, I just don't see it up there. But definitely keeping an eye there on Minnesota, especially the southern side of the state. South of Minneapolis, Twin Cities region, down toward Rochester. Gilbert, Northwest Arkansas here. Thanks for joining. Yes, Arkansas will be a threat for tomorrow. Potentially some severe weather tomorrow as we go down into Arkansas here. And again, looking at the timing here, Arkansas, Arkansas is another one of those states where, if the cap breaks, then we could see some severe weather as we go into tomorrow morning. But other than that, looks like maybe some severe weather from Jonesboro down through the Little Rock area, getting down into, what's this down here, west of Pine Bluff toward Hope, Arkansas, potentially seeing some supercell thunderstorms. Those would mainly be producing large hail damaging winds. The tornado threat will be highest up across the tri-state area up here into Missouri, western Illinois, and southeast Iowa, near the track of that low pressure system and what we call the triple point. That's where you always have to watch for more enhanced wind shear as it moves across portions of that area there as we go into tomorrow. But again, we'll talk about tomorrow here in just a second. I'm in Abilene, Texas. How bad will it get? So let's get down here into Abilene. Well, right now, Abilene, you have a threat for some significant hail. That is your biggest threat here. There's Abilene on the screen, and as we go through the day here today, you can see it's dry for most of the day through until about mid-afternoon. So we're looking 3, 4 o'clock Central Time this afternoon, watching west of Abilene. So toward Midland, toward Lubbock over there, into West Texas, the Texas Panhandle. We're watching out to see what happens. If the cap breaks or breaches later on today, 3, 4 o'clock, we may begin to see supercell thunderstorms develop right near the Abilene region. Will it be in Abilene? Maybe. Will it be north of Abilene or around Abilene and maybe not hit them? Maybe. Abilene, it's not a slam dunk for you, but there is a chance that a supercell could produce some 2-inch or larger diameter hail, a tornado, and some 60+ mile per hour winds as we do go through mainly the dinner time frame, and then those storms will quickly move east. So your time frame of opportunity here in Abilene is really 4 o'clock this afternoon through 8 o'clock. That's it. So you have a 4-hour window of severe weather, a very quick 4-hour window, and that's it for the day today. Thanks, Trudy, for joining. What about Oklahoma? Yeah, Oklahoma, it really depends on the capping inversion today. Like I said, it's like a pot of boiling water. So essentially, if you have that lid on the pot of boiling water and the steam can't come out, then you're not going to see thunderstorms. If you lift that lid and the steam comes out, if the cap breaches later today, if it breaches, then we're going to start to see more severe weather and thunderstorm activity start to ignite across Oklahoma. But if that cap holds real strong, and even if it lifts just a little bit, if the cap weakens enough, there could be just a little bit of thunderstorm activity, but it could suppress its severity and magnitude of potential. So I definitely think Oklahoma, we have all modes of severe weather on the table here, including Tulsa, Oklahoma City, Norman, Fort Sill, and Lawton, all the way over here to El Reno, Elk City, Moore, Oklahoma. All these areas have the potential for stronger severe weather today and some tornadoes. But again, the cap is the question. The cap is the $1 million question here. Is there going to be a breach in that cap? That is the $1 million question. If we do, there we go. We could see severe weather. Right now, this model favoring the Red River vicinity on south into Texas. And again, it looks like a lot of these storms don't even make it really to Dallas severe. They'll be in a weakening trend overnight. So we'll keep an eye on that. What's going on in Chicago tomorrow? So it looks like we got a lot of questions about Tuesday. So let's move on here. Let's talk about Tuesday's threat for severe weather, because I think tomorrow could actually be a significant day, the same of significance, if not even a little bit more significant than today's threat for severe weather. So let's look here at the threat for tomorrow. This will be updating at 12:30 this afternoon. So as we do a video update this afternoon that you guys will be getting, this will probably look a little bit different across portions here of the tri-state area. Right now, into southern and southeastern Iowa, northeastern Missouri into west central Illinois, there's a 3 out of 5, an enhanced risk for severe weather. And this actually includes a large slight risk surrounding that. So even if you're not in the enhanced risk tomorrow, you still have a threat for severe weather from Prairie du Chien, Wisconsin, and Dubuque, Iowa, over here toward Madison, Chicago, and Waukegan, through Rockford, Illinois, down here through the St. Louis region, into, say, Carbondale, Springfield, and Bloomington, the Champaign-Urbana region, down to Kankakee. We're talking about the Springfield, Jefferson City, Missouri area, Kansas City, and Omaha, down into Fayetteville, Jonesboro, Little Rock, down here toward Fort Smith, Arkansas, Texarkana. A lot of these areas are in that slight risk for severe weather. And then the dark green, that's a 1 out of 5. That's a marginal risk surrounding that. So looking at the tornado potential tomorrow, another threat of a 10% hatched risk for tornadoes here for portions of southeast Iowa, northeast Missouri, and west central Illinois, that tri-state area here, in and around portions of Quincy, Columbia, down here in towards Galesburg, Davenport, the Quad Cities region there into Iowa, Cedar Rapids, Iowa City, the University of Iowa is there as well. And then we have potentially a couple of smaller towns in here like Burlington, Macomb into western Illinois University, Kirksville, Centerville, Ottumwa, and then that stretches down toward Hannibal and Moberly. So we have a lot of areas here in place for the potential of some significant tornadoes tomorrow. And even Des Moines, you have a 10% probability of a tornado in your area, but it's not significant. The significant tornado potential for Des Moines as of now is further off to the east, and then a large 5 and 2% shading for tornadoes. Even that 5% shading getting further south, Little Rock, St. Louis, Rockford, Illinois, into the Dubuque and the Prairie du Chien area up there, Waterloo, Iowa. Those areas have a 5% chance of a tornado tomorrow. Also, another big deal will be hail. We have a large hail threat here across portions of Iowa, Missouri, Illinois. This is a 30% chance in the red shaded color of some hail that could be hen egg size or larger. So we definitely could be seeing that potential as we do go through the day there on Tuesday. And then we have a threat here for some damaging winds. Not the greatest threat of damaging winds, but still a 15% probability of those 60 plus mile per hour wind gusts. I do foresee them potentially updating this maybe to a 30% in a few areas as we do get closer to the event, as we get closer to Tuesday. So let's look at the timing for the storm for Tuesday, kind of the setup as well real quick. So let's look at the dew points for Tuesday. And you can see those dew point values will be growing. The warm front will be lifting further north through the day there on Tuesday. So we're going to start to see that warm, moist, unstable air from the Gulf of Mexico that's down across the Great Plains today. That'll be shifting north, advecting north into the Midwest as we go through the day on Tuesday. Here comes the warm front, folks. You can clearly see it here. 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. Look at that dry line, folks. We got a dry line cold front merge over here. We got a warm frontal setup. Let's look at this. Just a classic mid-April cyclone that we are seeing here. And when I say cyclone, I'm talking low pressure system. Look at the setup here. I'm going to draw it out for you real quick. So in the red, I'm going to show you the low pressure system up in this area here. We have a warm front. I'll draw here in orange, kind of extending along just like this through southwestern and southern Wisconsin, northern Illinois, through northern portions of Ohio over there into northern Indiana into western Ohio. Then we have a cold front here. I'll draw in the blue. Cold front dry line merge, kind of something like this across portions of the Midwest. Now, this is a classic triple point setup, folks. This is why they have that 10% area up in this tri-state area here. This is the greatest area of tornado potential because you have all this wind shear. And when you hear, meteorologists talking about backing of the winds, okay, if you've ever heard that term before, what this means is at the surface, winds could be more out of the south or south-southeast, kind of backing towards the low pressure system, right? And then the winds behind the cold front coming in out of the west here, you have that rolling motion in the atmosphere, and that definitely could lead to tornado genesis as we go through tomorrow. That's enhanced closer to the low pressure system as that low is sitting up here into Iowa or southern portions of Minnesota. You have backing of the winds towards the low, because remember, airflow around the low pressure system is counterclockwise. Okay, so it's moving around kind of like this around the low pressure system. So that's kind of what we're seeing. And we have a lot of rolling motion, a lot of wind shear, turning of the winds with height around this area into southeastern Iowa, into northeast Missouri, and western Illinois. So let's look at the instability values here as well. You can see instability will be on the rise. 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, really starting to crank there across portions of Iowa, Missouri, Illinois. You can see 5 o'clock tomorrow, we start to see that move into Illinois. We see just a big plume of instability moving across the Illinois Valley. This is midnight, folks, on your Wednesday morning, and still we're talking about instability up there into northern Illinois, Aurora to Rockford, around almost 2,000 joules per kilogram, Peoria down to around 1,800, St. Louis to about 1,300 joules per kilogram there. Plenty of instability overnight to carry on the severe weather threat. Let's look at the supercell composite values here. So let's go back to the afternoon hours here into the tri-state area. Let's go to about 4 o'clock. Look at these values here. Supercell composite values already growing here around the Davenport Quad Cities region. This is about 14 or 15, 16. There we go. 16 out of 10, folks, across this region. And that, again, is very significant because it's out of 10. So if you have a 16 out of 10, that means likely we're going to be seeing embedded supercells into this environment. You can see even 14s and 15s out of 10s into western and central Illinois as that warm front lifts further north through the afternoon. Let's go into the evening hours here, and you can see those values start to maintain across this region. We even see kind of a spike in those supercell composite values to 17s down here, 18s into western Illinois, around the Quincy region, Hannibal into Galesburg, Peoria, as we go into about 9 o'clock on Tuesday evening here. Now let's switch over and switch gears to the significant tornado parameter for that day here on Tuesday. And we can see that we're definitely in line to see the potential for some stronger tornadoes as we do go through the day there on Tuesday as well with some of these parameter values. So let's look at this. This is the significant tornado parameter, and you can see, look at that, folks. Those values really start to climb as we go through the day there across Iowa, and then as they cross into Illinois, we start to see those values climb even after dark. So the tornado threat there into Illinois will extend even after dark across a lot of these areas here, and you can see those significant tornado values of 3s across north central Illinois and tomorrow evening. And again, a value of greater than 1 is significant. So when you're talking 3s and 4s, that definitely signals the potential for those EF2 to EF5 strength tornadoes here across that region. So with that said, let's go back here to the outlook from our friends over at the Storm Prediction Center. And you can see these are the experts. They put the outlooks together for tomorrow, and you can see that the enhanced risk is right here. With what I'm seeing with some of the new data, I definitely could see the potential for the Storm Prediction Center to expand this slight risk maybe a little bit further there into Indiana perhaps, And then I think, honestly, with what I'm seeing, they're going to expand potentially this enhanced risk further east into parts of Illinois and maybe potentially a little bit further south there into southern Missouri as well. We'll have to keep an eye on that as we do go into the day tomorrow. They will have an update again at 12:30. We'll keep an eye on that, but that looks to be the threat as we go into Tuesday. Now let's talk timing. Let's talk storm timing. Let's look at the composite reflectivity. Let's take the outlook off and talk about timing, and I'll answer any questions you have about Tuesday in just a moment, so hang tight there. Again, if you are here on the live stream, we're doing live severe weather outbreak coverage for Monday and Tuesday here today and tomorrow on the 16th of April. If you are here, make sure to smash that like button, folks. The more likes we get, the more people who join. Also, subscribe to my channel. We'll be having an afternoon update video very shortly here, early this afternoon, on this situation as we have new data coming in here at midday. All right, so let's go here through about the sunrise time frame here tomorrow. So 6, 7 o'clock. Let's go to 7 o'clock here. So 7 o'clock, very quiet picture across the tri-state area here, Iowa, Missouri, Illinois. Most of the Midwest, very quiet as we start the day on Tuesday. A lot of the storm and convection is further to the west, across portions there of the eastern plains and the upper Midwest. Here comes that warm front lifting north as we go through portions of the morning. Cold front and dry line catching up as well. And you can see 1 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. Des Moines, down towards just west of Davenport into, say, Ottumwa, Kirksville, and even down toward Hannibal and Quincy. That's your opportunity for severe weather early on tomorrow afternoon. Arcing band of embedded supercells, damaging winds, large hail, isolated tornadoes possible. Mid to late afternoon, sweeping through eastern Iowa, north central and western Illinois. And then look at, if we have some clearing, just a brief period of clearing behind that convective wave that moves through portions of the mid-afternoon there near the Mississippi River, if we have sunshine breaking out here in this vicinity, and I'm going to circle it right in this area here, if we have any sunshine breaking out, that would be significant, folks, because that would re-energize, re-destabilize the atmosphere. And we could definitely see those supercells really starting to crank back here in northern Missouri and near the Missouri-Iowa border. And those supercells could grow upscale. Look at that, folks. We could see a quick upscale growth, a couple strong tornadoes possible with this activity. This is into the evening hours west of the Quad Cities region, into the Iowa City, Cedar Rapids area, down there to Quincy. We need to keep an eye on that threat. Kirksville, Missouri in play there. This would grow upscale into a very strong line of storms that could produce 70-plus mile-per-hour winds, I think, as this pushes across into northern Illinois over the overnight hours there. This is 6 o'clock in the evening, and then we'll continue to about 9 o'clock. Look at that. We have a couple lines of supercell embedded structures moving through portions there of southern Wisconsin, northern Illinois. This would be the corridor, I think, along and west of I-39 here into northwestern Illinois is going to be the biggest threat for tornado potential. I think areas east of I-39 towards Chicago is going to be more of a damaging wind hail threat. So if you are, say, from Rockford, Illinois, to the DeKalb, Sycamore area down there toward LaSalle, Peru, and Bloomington on east toward Chicago. So we're talking Aurora, Naperville, Kankakee, and Waukegan, and Chicago proper and Cook County. We're mainly talking about damaging winds and hail with an isolated tornado threat. If you're west of I-39, we're talking Freeport, Illinois to Dubuque, Clinton, Iowa, down here to the Davenport Quad Cities, the Moline area, down to Galesburg and Princeton, Illinois, and Bureau County, back here in towards portions of, say, Geneseo. I'm trying to name some of the bigger cities in here. Peoria, those areas have a more potential for tornadic thunderstorms and potentially some strong long track tornadoes as we do go through tomorrow early evening. Those would be the EF2 to EF5 tornadoes. And then we see those storms move east. They'll weaken as they move into Indiana overnight. This is midnight. Storms entering into Michigan, Indiana, and western Ohio. These will mainly be just some heavy rainfall and lightning producers, some smaller hail and gusty winds, but overall nothing too crazy with those as we go into the midnight time frame. So again, if you are here, ask questions. We're going to answer as many as we can here about Tuesday. And I do appreciate everybody being here. If you are new here, make sure to subscribe to the channel down below. We will keep you updated. We do daily weather forecast videos, great detailed, accurate weather forecasts right here on this channel. So make sure you are a subscriber here to Weather on the Go. All right, let's see here. Mononk, Illinois. So yes, Mononk, Illinois. I believe you're down here into the I-39 corridor, closer to Bloomington. I think you may even be on I-74 down here. So I think there's a potential for some storms to move through the Mononk region, probably I would say between 3 o'clock and it looks like about 10 p.m. So 3 p.m. to 10 p.m. is your window. Could have a couple waves of severe weather. It looks like you're going to be on the southern flank, though, of the most significant weather. So if you're in the Mononk area, still watching for all three modes. Damaging hail that could be up to 2 inches in diameter. Tornadoes, potentially a stronger tornado, and then some damaging 60 to 70 mile an hour winds there, and then Mononk Field Crest region down there in toward the I-74 and I-39 corridor. So that's what we're looking at, 3 p.m. to 10 p.m. in that region. Southeast Iowa checking in. Thanks, Eric. Yes, Southeast Iowa, you have the highest potential for all modes of severe weather tomorrow. We're talking strong tornadoes that could be long track, those EF2 to EF5 tornadoes, those damaging, destructive hailstones, 2 inches or larger in diameter. We're talking hen egg size or larger, and some 60 to 70 mile an hour wind gusts here. And you can see Southeast Iowa, we're talking about late morning through about the late afternoon hours, but also into the early evening as well. There'll be another wave. So it looks like we'll have one wave move through midday into the mid-afternoon, maybe a brief break. The big question mark in southeastern Iowa, do we see sunshine 4 or 5 o'clock tomorrow late afternoon? If we do, more supercell storms develop behind that. Those will be the tornadic producers as they move north and east toward the Mississippi River, and those storms will be very, very noisy with some very strong winds, damaging hail, and potentially tornadoes and a lot of lightning as they move through portions there of the Quad Cities region by about 6, 7, 8 o'clock here tomorrow evening. Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Milwaukee, Wisconsin right now looks like you don't see storms for most of the day. It looks like mainly the evening hours. So about 6 o'clock tomorrow evening from Milwaukee. It looks like the strongest storms come through about mid-evening. So around 8, 9 o'clock. So about 6 o'clock through about midnight is your time frame to watch there in Milwaukee for severe weather potential. Bloomington, Indiana. So down here into the Bloomington, Indiana region. So we're going through, yes, it looks like an after dark setup for you. Storms don't really start rolling in until after dinner. We're talking 7 o'clock through about the 1 o'clock time frame in the morning. And it looks like the strongest storms will be moving through right around midnight. They will be on a weakening trend as they do move into the Bloomington, Indiana region. So severe weather may be possible, but they will be on a weakening trend. They will be much stronger back to the west of Missouri, Iowa, and Illinois than they will be in Indiana. But still some damaging winds, maybe 60 mile an hour winds and some quarter-size hail cannot be ruled out there into Bloomington around the midnight time frame. So we'll keep an eye on that. Other than that, just beneficial rains. I know there's in northeastern Iowa, we still have an extreme drought ongoing here in, I'll kind of circle it, in kind of this area here. We kind of have an extreme drought ongoing in this area, and we really need some nice rains. And actually, let's look at the rainfall totals in which we'll see from these storms as well, because not only a severe threat, we could have a lot of heavy rain with these storms as well. And you can see the severe weather potential here, and then you could see the heavy rainfall. Look at some of these rainfall totals. Areas in northeast Iowa, yes, extreme drought, 3 inches of rain, but if we see that over dry ground, it's going to run off a lot. We could have some flooded roadways, some flooded ditch lines. We could see a lot of potentially some flooding across northeastern Iowa there, about 3 to 5 inches of rain. Southwest Wisconsin, 1 to 3 inches, isolated higher totals. Northern Illinois seeing anywhere from about 1 inch to 2 inches. We see some decent rains. Becomes a little bit more progressive over here toward Indiana, around 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch of rain as we go through the late week time frame there through Wednesday. Brandon Johnson, what's Cedar Rapids looking like looking for at severe weather? So let's zoom in here to the Cedar Rapids, Iowa region. So let's look at the composite reflectivity. This is what the radar could look like. And just note, this is This is a simulation. The radar will look a lot different than this probably by the time we get to that event. 5 o'clock tomorrow morning, we're already seeing a couple showers and maybe a rumble of thunder near Cedar Rapids. Nothing to be, to write home about by any means. Going to about 9 o'clock in the morning, still watching for the bigger storm cluster to your west. So most of the morning there outside of around sunrise will be pretty dry. The stronger storms won't arrive into Cedar Rapids until about mid-afternoon. So we're talking 3 o'clock. We could have one round between 3 and about 5. And then if we see sunshine, again, you're in that area where if we see sunshine behind that briefly, we could have supercell thunderstorms. Those would be the ones that produce tornadoes there by 6 o'clock in the Cedar Rapids, Iowa City area and up toward Waterloo as we go through the early evening. So one wave between about 3 and 5. And then another wave between about 6 and 8 o'clock. So that's what you're looking at there for the both timings of rounds of storms in the Cedar Rapids area. So it looks like 1-2 punch there for some of these areas there in the Midwest. And again, folks, I did post a video earlier on this morning. If you haven't watched it, and if you, after this live stream is over or whenever, just go watch the video for today on my channel here on Weather on the Go. I did post a morning video. An update video this afternoon will be coming out after the new Storm Prediction Center update comes out here at 12:30. We'll keep you covered on that. Again, subscribe to the channel, folks. Hit that like button down below. I really do appreciate it. Central Arkansas, Angel. Yeah, for tomorrow, for Tuesdays. So let's go down here. We haven't talked much about Arkansas. We can go through the day tomorrow, and you can see most of the morning for Central Arkansas, if you're talking like around the Little Rock region, pretty dry, so I'm not too worried about that. Looking right now like more of scattered thunderstorms. They don't really start to develop until they get to about the Little Rock region. We're talking into the peak daytime heating, so about 2 o'clock. 2 p.m., 3 o'clock in the afternoon tomorrow. That's when you'll watch for storms north and west of Little Rock. And they'll move through the Little Rock region around 3, 4 o'clock. And then they start becoming a little bit more widespread, maybe eastern Arkansas into West Tennessee around the dinner time frame. So it looks like into central Arkansas, time frame to watch in and around the Little Rock region, for example, looks like between 2 o'clock and 4 o'clock for storms to move through. So a 2-hour window of severe weather, all modes on the table, including tornadoes. The tornado threat obviously is higher up here towards southeast Iowa, northeast Missouri into west central and maybe northwest Illinois. But I do think that central Arkansas could have a couple of isolated tornadoes, including the Little Rock region. You do have a 5% chance of a tornado tomorrow. Kansas City, I know I have a lot of questions about that, so let's look at the timing here for Kansas City, Missouri, for you folks that are in the chat here. Going through tomorrow, looks like for first of all, for today, looks like the storms may start to erupt to your west by about midnight. Those may graze the northern side of the metro there in Kansas City by about sunrise or so. We'll be watching for more storms, the strongest of which may come through mid-morning tomorrow with hail, damaging winds, and maybe an isolated tornado there near Kansas City. But I think for the morning time frame, it's probably going to be more of a damaging wind and hail producer than tornadoes because it's, again, morning hours, early morning, unfavorable time of day. But with the dynamics with this storm, I wouldn't rule out an isolated tornado there in Kansas City metro there at 9 o'clock in the morning, for example. Then those storms push east. So we kind of just see Kansas City, you're kind of in a tale of both worlds here. You kind of have the weakening stuff from Mondays from today, and then you're the initiation point for Tuesday, and then the storms grow more mature as they push east. So Kansas City, you're kind of in so-called the dome, I guess you could say, of the severe weather. You have, you have the severe weather to your west is most significant. You have the weakening severe weather as they push into your area there for late tonight, early Tuesday morning. Then you're the initiation point for storms. So storms will develop right near Kansas City early morning on Tuesday, and they'll mature and intensify and grow in coverage as they push further east and northeast through the day on Tuesday. Yeah, no problem, Angel. Thanks for being here. I do appreciate it. Thank you for watching my videos as well. And thank all of you guys for watching my videos. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be doing this today. I really do appreciate you, all you folks, for being so wonderful and definitely being so supportive here of my channel. I thank all the new subscribers, all the old subscribers here that have been with me for so long on here, since I started, essentially. I really do appreciate it. What we do here is we're trying to grow the community to become more aware of the weather, also to educate, but just give you a true, accurate, detailed weather forecast. And that's what we do here at Weather on the Go. That's always my mission, is to get you guys the most accurate information that you possibly have, so you guys can get your day off with the most accurate weather that you can have. So thank you guys so much for being here. I really appreciate it. Andrew says, so when is this supposed to end on Tuesday in Northeast Illinois? So like if we're talking timing for like Northeastern Illinois up there toward like Evanston, Waukegan, those areas, Woodstock, Illinois, we're talking when are they supposed to end? It looks like about midnight. So it looks like the last rounds of storms will be coming through at midnight there. After midnight, we're going to be quieting down. So the storms start in Northeastern Illinois around about 5, 6 o'clock tomorrow evening, and they go through about midnight. So you have about a 5 to 7 hour window for storms and severe weather potential there into Northeastern Illinois. Yeah, no worries. Thank you for asking, Andrew. I appreciate it. How about Lincoln, Nebraska, and rainfall amount? So let's go back here to Lincoln, Nebraska. Right now, the timing for today for severe weather in Lincoln, Nebraska looks to be about midnight. So the strongest storms will be coming through around midnight. If they form, there's, like we mentioned, there's a cap on the atmosphere. I do think that there's a lot more lift readily available near the low pressure storm track. So Lincoln, Nebraska shouldn't have a problem seeing storms. I think it's further south into Kansas, Oklahoma, and Texas that may have to overcome that cap for it to break for severe weather. But I think Lincoln, Nebraska looks like about midnight to about 6 o'clock in the morning is your 6 hour window to watch for severe weather. Again, this is an overnight threat. And when we're talking rainfall totals, as your question asks, you can see here for rainfall totals in Lincoln, Nebraska, we're going to see some decent rains in and around the Lincoln, Nebraska area. It looks like the heaviest well to your north, but I wouldn't rule out maybe 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 an inch of rain, maybe 3/4 of an inch at the very most. So it looks like staying under an inch for you there. Southwestern Arkansas, we're not really seeing anything too significant there for southwestern Arkansas, but I could see an isolated supercell thunderstorm tomorrow on Tuesday. I don't really foresee this being a widespread severe weather outbreak for Arkansas. I do think there is a chance for severe weather in southwest Arkansas. You're going to be on the tail end of the event. I really don't think you're going to see the greatest severe weather chance. And quite honestly, I think the most widespread severe weather tomorrow by far will be near the track of the surface low. So in Iowa, northern Missouri, and Illinois, that's where the most widespread severe weather will be. There will still be probably warnings, even tornado warnings, down across this area from St. Louis down through Little Rock there in Jonesboro. This area definitely could light up with severe weather. It's going to be a very narrow area, and it's only one shot down here, whereas further to the north, there's a couple shots of storms. We got 1 or 2 or even 3 lines of storms moving through up near the surface low here. You could have one storm line moving up here. We could have another one there, and then near the surface low, another one. So there could be arcing bands of severe weather further to the north. Could there be a chance that the cap breaks in northern Oklahoma, southern Kansas? Yes, definitely is. I think the cap could break. I think it probably will break, but it won't until late this evening. So all afternoon will be bone dry there into Kansas and Oklahoma for the most part. I would be shocked if the cap broke during the afternoon. And if it does, I would be ready, because if the cap breaks this afternoon, peak daytime heating, those significant tornado parameter values are very high across Kansas, Oklahoma, and up there toward Nebraska. So if the cap breaks early, which is still a scenario that could happen, then the severe weather threat goes up. If the cap breaks late, then we're probably not going to see much severe weather. If it breaks on time, then the forecast goes as on track for what the Storm Prediction Center has. Good morning, Snowies. Thanks for being here. Again, folks, I do have to get to work. I have to do my second channel video here at North Central Weather Center. I also have to work on my video for you folks with the afternoon update here on this channel. So again, thank you guys for joining. If you are not a subscriber here, again, I stress this to you a lot. If you aren't a subscriber here on Weather on the Go, make sure that you do press that subscribe button down below, and you do make sure to press the like button as well, because it helps to get all of this vital information to more and more people. And I really do appreciate it, folks. You guys are literally the best audience that I could ask for. So thank you guys for being here this morning. Thank you for helping me spread this information to help people in the path of these storms. They really do need to know this information. Severe weather season is underway, and this is going to be a long severe weather season. It's only April 15th today. We have a long way to go through the fall of severe weather. I think May as well is going to be a very active month for severe weather and tornadoes. So again, subscribe to the channel. Like the live stream, like my videos. I do appreciate it. It helps to get all this information to more and more people, and I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of their day. I will get going on those videos. I get hard to work for you folks. Getting that second channel video up to date here on North Central Weather Center if you live in the North Central states. Also, actually, I'm going to post that. I'm going to post that real quick on the live stream chat. So if you guys are still here, I'm going to post that second channel link for you folks in the chat so you guys can subscribe to the second channel. That is more of a regional channel for talking about the North Central US, while this channel, Weather on the Go, is mainly for the entire US, Southern Canada, and the tropics. So here's that channel link. I'll put it there. I'll pin it to the top of the chat for you folks real quick. So I pinned it to the top of the chat, folks. Go subscribe to North Central Weather Center. That video will be coming out very shortly. I'll have an update video for you on the main channel here as well. And we'll keep you covered around the clock on severe weather. We'll have another update for you folks here on Weather on the Go tomorrow morning. So make sure, again, that you are subscribed to this channel. All right, we're on the road to 100,000 subscribers. I would love to hit 100,000 subscribers by June 1st, and you guys can help me get there by subscribing. All right, thank you guys for being here. Have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your Monday, a safe rest of your Monday. Make sure to stay weather aware if you live in the Great Plains Midwest over the next couple of days. And again, we'll have updates right around the clock. My community tab on YouTube, Twitter, I'll be updating you guys there on Twitter as well. And here I'll post the Twitter link in the chat as well, so you guys can follow me on Twitter for additional information. So I just posted the Twitter on there, so you guys can follow me on Twitter, and obviously it's still in the chat everywhere else as well. So you guys can do that. So thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you later. All right. Watch out for the afternoon update. Goodbye, everybody. Stay safe.